Hello and welcome to the Better in Business podcast. Today's episode, I am interviewing Jennifer Wouw, as she is also going to be co-hosting the Better in Business podcast with me moving forward. So today's episode, like every episode that I bring to you, is designed to help you do better in business. And if you listen up and you look at it through that lens, I 100% guarantee that you will always find something in every episode to help you do better in business. So right now we're going to jump in. You're going to get to know Jen. You're going to hear her story. You're going to learn from that. You are absolutely going to be able to do better in business. And then from now on, you will hear Jen regularly as she co-hosts this podcast, shares her wisdom and interviews amazing guests, all to help you once again do better in business. I'll see you in there. You've tuned into the Better in Business podcast, and I'm your host, Jeannie Savage. I'm a multi-award winning business veteran and head of the Strategic Bookkeeper Network. My network of strategic bookkeepers is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs do better in business. This podcast aims to challenge your thinking. If you're not thinking the right way, how can you act the right way? Each episode will dive into key drivers of success, which I also call the rules of the game. Learn the rules and play to win. Let's go. I like to start every episode by reminding you that it is globally recognized that pillar number one for success is up-to-date, accurate bookkeeping, which is the only way you can see how your business is performing in terms of profit and cash. If your books aren't right up to date, visit betterinbusiness.global, drop me a line and I'll connect you with a certified strategic bookkeeper. Fire your bookkeeper and hire a strategic bookkeeper. Bookkeeping is a cost, whereas strategic bookkeeping is an investment that averages a 10x return on the fees. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to quickly let you know that I'll soon be running a brand new series of workshops on how to start, grow, fix, or scale your business. In these sessions, you can expect to get real education. We'll diagnose the problems in your business, uncover the mistakes that might be holding you back, and most importantly, I'll show you how to scale in a way that's rock solid so that your business gives you both the income and time freedom you want and deserve. This isn't theory. I've got decades of experience scaling my own businesses and helping others do the same. I've supported a large enterprise through a $100 million scale up, helped a trade business move from 0 to 1 million profitability per year, and guided others through meteoric rises in their industries. Along the way, I've been honored to be recognized as a multi-award winning entrepreneur, including Australia's Women in Finance Innovator of the Year and Bookkeeper of the Year. If you'd like to join the waitlist for these workshops, then just send an email to hello@betterinbusiness.global with the word waitlist, and we'll make sure that you're the first to know when we are running these workshops. See you in the episode. Welcome to the podcast, Jen.
Excited to be here, Jeannie.
Thank you. And yay, so much gratitude for agreeing to co-host this podcast with me. Jen is a bookkeeper inside the Strategic Bookkeeper Network. We've been working together for over 2 years. Her journey is beautiful. Today, she's sharing just her story as a strategic bookkeeper in practice. But Jen recently became one of my coaches. So she now coaches bookkeepers all over the world. And I am very grateful. The bookkeepers absolutely love her. The impact that she has is amazing. But that is one of her moonlighting roles. She absolutely, like myself, runs an amazing bookkeeping practice herself. So she is saving the world one small business at a time, like me. And so today I'd love to introduce you all to Jen so you can hear a bit of her story, because you will be hearing more from her as we progress. So Miss Jennifer, would you tell the listeners a bit about yourself, who you are, a bit about your practice, a bit about your history so we can get to know you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jennifer, as Jeannie introduced me. I run NBK Services and we're based in the Lockyer Valley in Queensland. I've been a bookkeeper for over 20 years and I work with entrepreneurs in all kinds of industries across Australia. What I do to help them is to get their numbers up to date and accurate and compliant. But more importantly, I give them the education and support to use those numbers in decision making. That's how they're able to scale their business and move towards the goals and lifestyles that they want.
And that's what I do in my business too. As in, when I've got my business owner hat on, my business success is a maths equation. I was only just saying today in coaching, and Jen was in there as well, I said, brand marketing and selling is science and psychology and art, but it's still a maths equation, right? Like if you're a pro services business, for example, or a plumber or something like that, it's good to increase your database annually by 500 people. That's the maths of it. And then of that 500, how many are going to reach out and make inquiries? Of that inquiry pool, how many are going to actually convert and say yes to working with you? Business success is a maths equation. So I would love to hear a bit about, when did you make the shift from being a bookkeeper, which I think you're a bookkeeper for a long time, and then when did you make the shift to strategic bookkeeper and why?
Yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, I joined and became a certified strategic bookkeeper. And that was the moment where everything shifted for me. I just went from just preparing the numbers for clients to actually investigating those numbers and helping clients to see where the pain points were and how to improve on them. It allows us to help clients understand what's really happening in their business. Just shining that light can be so powerful. I think for the why, I wanted to elevate my own skills. And I felt like this was a really powerful way to do it. And I've said before that I really feel like the strategic bookkeeper way is elevating not only me, but our whole industry to allow us to bring more value and more empowerment directly to the business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. I see it when I'm working with clients, and I think you'll be able to relate to this. And I was just talking about this today in coaching. Strategic bookkeeping reverses business failure statistics. It simply does. And strategic bookkeeping is the first thing we need to do, right? It's like, okay, we've prepared the numbers, that's bookkeeping, and then strategic bookkeeping, let's actually look at them. Let's figure out what's happening with your cash flow, your profitability, everything else. But I see every day with the clients that I'm working with, when they pay attention to those numbers, the bottom line is the business performance improves. And sometimes it can go up and down. Something may happen. They may lose an account. But I actually was working with a business recently and that happened, right? He has been going gangbusters, like amazing results over the years. And then something happened in the business and he lost a major account and it really impacted the revenue. Now, because we were engaged in the numbers, and I feel like you'll relate to this, it was so much easier, number one, to identify what had happened because, it's easy to blame costs in that case, right? But at the end of the day, he's got a big business. Ops costs don't change, right? Cost of sales, we can always improve that. We could knock 6-7% off that. That'd be amazing. But in his case, it was a revenue problem because he's got the capacity. You know what I mean? Like if we just fix that revenue problem, everything else will fix. Bigger businesses, bigger decisions. But internally, if he could just pull that lever, and he's great at getting business and go, let me go and win some more big accounts. Let me go and generate the revenue. The cost of sales will fix themselves. The operational costs will fix themselves. Now, you can't get that clarity if you're not in the numbers, and then you can't turn that ship around as fast as we were able to without that clarity. I remember working with a business and it took us 2 months to get that clarity and another 4 months to get the result because you're right at the beginning and you're just trying to get in there and get the data. But when you're working with a client, even when something goes wrong, your ability to see what it was and make a change is faster, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. And it is funny that it's in different areas of the strategic bookkeeping method that you start to really get clarity on what has happened. But like you said, because you're continually adding your strategy and monitoring your KPIs and all that kind of stuff, suddenly when something's out of sync, it's really quick to spot. And then because you can spot it really fast, then you're looking at, hey, what options do we have to fix this?
Yeah, absolutely. And what is the maths of it, right? Is it the turnover number that needs to go up? Is it that we're not increasing our list each, like our database each year? All these kind of things. So that leads me to question number 3 that I have prepared, which is a story. So can you share a story of how you've helped an entrepreneur do better in business through strategic bookkeeping?
Yeah, the client that comes to mind, they were incredibly busy. Classic hamster on a wheel. So they were working huge hours, feeling burnt out, but the money in the bank wasn't going up. So they couldn't understand why their effort wasn't showing in or turning into profit. So we started with numbers 101, got everything up to date and accurate. Once the numbers were clean, we moved into that numbers knowledge and helping them to understand what were the numbers and what were they saying. From there, we built the number strategy or turned those numbers into meaningful numbers. And that's when the picture really came into focus. So we discovered the 2 key issues. So the first one was that they were increasing their revenue, but their costs were increasing at the same rate. So it was just cancelling out the gains. And then the second one was they had a lot of personal expenditure running through the business. So the business was making a profit, but it was leaking it out in places where they weren't looking. So they didn't have all the puzzle pieces together. They were just looking at one and they couldn't see what they needed to see in that one piece in the puzzle that they were looking at. So once we understood all that, we were able to set the targets around pricing, spending, and how much money they could safely take from the business. And then once we made those changes and monitor them for a couple of months, because as you said, it's not always instant, keeping them on track is really the key at that point. But the result was the profit did increase. And then they learned how to manage the drawings, which then allowed for that bank balance to start to recover. Because as we know, the bank balance doesn't just indicate profit. It also indicates future costs, such as tax and those sorts of situations. So for the first time, they started to feel like the money matched the effort.
Oh, really? They started to feel like, well, I know entrepreneurs will listen to that and just be like, really? The money matched the effort? Finally. That's a massive, massive result. I'm just sitting on that one, money matching the effort. I feel like everyone wants that. I'm just going to touch on some things you said there. So as I know when entrepreneurs listen, some of these things can be like drawings, what's this, what's that? And just in a nutshell, when you start your business and you never think about these fancy accounting things, right? But ultimately, if you start your business and your structuring accountant says, let's put you into a company, well, you shouldn't really be drawing money outside of payroll, right? You're going to pay yourself a wage. But what most entrepreneurs do, and if you're trained out of a trading trust like I do in my bookkeeping practice, I actually am not allowed to take a wage. I have to take a drawing. And that drawing does not hit your profit and loss. And honestly, that is hard to understand. There's a whole why. And why is because it's double entry accounting, right? But for an entrepreneur, the thing to understand, and we see it all the time with business owners, is they're drawing money out of the business to live on, a little bit like a wage. Like they're just taking money out of the bank. And isn't that okay? It's like it's in the bank. Can't I take it? But when we look at the real profitability, which is really simple, it's your revenue minus your expenses, right? Revenue minus expenses, bearing in mind that drawings is not a day-to-day expense of the business, okay? That's you just taking money. It's not an expense. You didn't buy something. You didn't go out and buy a thing or pay someone for some services. It's not an expense. We see it all the time, and I think Jen would too. Like I mean all the time is people drawing out of the business more than the real profit, revenue minus expenses. And if I went one step further, allowing to leave money in for things like loans to be repaid, like cars. So the key takeaway is this stuff is hard. This stuff is complex. It's easy for Jen. It's easy for me. It's easy for a certified strategic bookkeeper. Jen and I also don't know how to do our own plumbing or do our own electrical stuff, right? We don't know how to do a whole lot of raft of things, but we do know how to do this. And as Jen likes to say, you didn't go into business to be an accountant and you don't have to. So if you're feeling that I don't understand this stuff, I just want to hold a safe space to not understanding it. It's okay. The key is just to really think about, do I need to pair up with someone who does understand this stuff so that I can have the intelligence in the business that I need to maybe survive and then hopefully thrive as well. Do you relate to that, Jen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the real challenges that people face in asking for help, and that does move into other areas we wanted to talk about today, but often the challenge that I see is that people come to us and they want some help, or they go and hire a bookkeeper and they want help. And then they're like, why is it so hard to work with this person? And it's actually, our role is supposed to be a support for you. We are supposed to work with you, and we will set the ground rules. We need paperwork from you. We need evidence from you. But the right person will work with you to make sure that you overcome hurdles and that it doesn't become a hardship to work with someone. So I think really, if you're going to hire help, or if you've got some help right now but doesn't feel helpful, maybe you need to actually look outside of that and look at whether or not you have the right help.
That is so interesting, because a lot of entrepreneurs do complain that their bookkeeper often has the stick out. Do you know what I mean? And this lack of empathy. When I've got my entrepreneur hat on, I will say to my bookkeeping team, listen, I got bigger fish to fry. Like, we do need to make sales and we need to do all the things. And so I completely agree. I think it's okay to demand some empathy and support from your bookkeeper. That was really insightful. So on to my next one. What is one piece of advice you would love to give every entrepreneur?
Yeah, I definitely think it comes back to hiring help. I think hiring help is the most powerful thing, because if you remember the why of why you got into business, it was to achieve something or to do something that you absolutely love. And as you mentioned earlier so beautifully, you didn't go into business to be a bookkeeper, or you'd have a bookkeeping business. And you didn't go into a business to be a management accountant, or you'd have a management accounting business. You know what I mean? So you shouldn't feel like you have to wear all the hats. Yeah. And, you know, right now, I'm struggling because I can't install the new beautiful sign I have for my office. Everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. So you need to find the right team, but it needs to be a strong team that will support you. And I think the power in the strategic bookkeeper and having a strategic bookkeeper help you is that they can support you in so many different areas. It's not just a singular one-piece software that solves a single problem. It is a capable technician that can help you to not only get compliant, but also learn about what your numbers mean and what you can do with them when you understand that piece.
Yeah, you won't win the game without a winning team. I caught up with a girlfriend yesterday who's also a client and just a beautiful soul. And she has us supporting her. So actually, she's a DIY bookkeeper. Jen and I, the way we work, and all of my strategic bookkeepers, when we're working with our clients, generally they either need full service bookkeeping, or they can actually do a lot of the day-to-day themselves, but they just need a certified strategic bookkeeper to make sure they're on track, make sure nothing's going wrong, be able to support them and this kind of thing. So this girlfriend of mine, she's on the DIY package, and then we also investigate the numbers monthly. And I've been working with her for goodness about 13 years now. It's been ages. And she is really gun shy on team. She's had really bad experiences with employees, etc. But the one person she maintains is us, because honestly, it is not a pitch. It's not a sales pitch at all. And I've heard another really good business coach say publicly, the first person that you need on your team is a certified strategic bookkeeper. And I think the second person you need is like a Jack or Jill of all trades admin. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Someone who can support you in the back end area where your paperwork's not quite right, or you need that solution that's going to get the hurdle out of the way and can help you with SOPs and risk management and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, the stuff that you can hand off. Like I said to her, if she could just trust me to take that step in that direction again. And for example, she's going to do a lot of YouTube content, and then getting someone who can just chop that up and repurpose it. Because otherwise, you're trying to do everything yourself and you just can't.
Yeah, wearing all those hats, even for us, is impossible.
Yeah, it is. And success leaves clues, and successful entrepreneurs team up, and they also know and use their numbers. And I would just say that little one, you know, what we just said about teaming up, I just hope everyone takes it in because it's just so critically important. So on to number 5. What do you see entrepreneurs getting wrong with their numbers? I see a squillion things. What do you see?
I think one of the most powerful ones, which, you know, really ties back for us to our free 7 deadly cash flow sins book. The big one is when they start running the business from the bank account. You know, we've talked before, your bank account doesn't just have in there the money that is available to you. So if you're looking at your bank account and seeing that and going, yes, that's available to me, it's not always. So learning the difference between running the business off the bank account and making decisions only based on what they see that day as a balance, and it's so risky. It just opens them up to debt, or it opens them up to overspending. And then it's always so easy to create debt by overdrawing and not realizing that you're damaging the business. It's really difficult to fill that hole back in and to recover from a place of debt.
We see that all the time. I 100% agree with what you said. I'm going to say my number one thing now too is running the business from the bank account. We do have the 7 Deadly Cash Flow Sins ebook available at betterinbusiness.global. We've got it, I think, in the free toolkit you can grab. That one can be, my father calls it going broke doing business, meaning you're busy, but cash flow sends you broke. And most entrepreneurs would just go, what is wrong with that? Like, surely the money in the bank is telling me how my business is performing. And I think for me, it's one of those things like, trust me now, believe me later. If I was going to really explain this concept, let's just start a diploma course in double entry accounting. Or just like when the plumber comes to your house and says, listen, I know what's wrong and I'll fix it. We are trade professionals, you know what I mean? And I think I could sit and explain everything, or I could give the pearls of wisdom and say, running your business on the bank account is a fast track to failure. And running your business off real financial reports that come out of your accounting software is where it is at. If you're doing the former, then you're making a critical error that could kill your business. Great, I know that now. I can stop doing it. Then you can go, I know what I need to do. I need to go get my numbers in order. Then I need to pay attention to them. Great, I know now what I need to do. Do I really need to know the arse end out of everything else? Maybe not, you know what I mean? Because I feel for entrepreneurs who just go, I thought I didn't know much about this stuff. Now I feel like I know even less than not much. But also just to hold that space of empathy to say, you're in good company. This is probably how most feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and not being afraid to learn. None of us are good at the start. Every time you're learning something new, every time you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and growing, you might have your first version perfect, but 2 years later, that first version perfect is probably horrifying. You just improve and improve and improve. No one starts off an expert.
Oh, that is so true. That's like probably links to a story, Jen, where I was working with some guys that owned a cafe, and with them, they were running the business on the bank account, classic. And I think it was a few years in and they finally started to get the pulse of the business. Like I got a letter from the ATO or something and they're like, oh, I think something's wrong under the hood of the business. So they reached out and I went in, and honestly, you get to be so experienced that you can smell it a mile away. So I went in, grabbed everything, had my way of getting them all up to date really quickly, which in food is hard, right? Because there's mixed GST. But got it all up to date. I knew as I was going, there was going to be over $100,000 in debt that they didn't know about, primarily tax office and superannuation. I could see based on the sales figures, they weren't going to trade out of it. So I got a pre-insolvency involved. And this speaks to pre-insolvency. Jen is interviewing a guest next week who's a pre-insolvency expert. You'll be able to hear from them. But we did a commercially viable Phoenix with them so they could keep the business and keep trading. And then we helped them with, okay, guys, your food costs and your staff costs are out of control. And like you said, here's the target. How are we going to get to the target? And right at the beginning, they were clueless. Like they knew zero. They knew nothing. And I got 2 years in, I was sitting in a Zoom room with them and they hit benchmark profit, which for a cafe was 11%. And my eyes started welling up and they were talking. And then one of the guys was going, yeah, when I'm doing these budgets and I'm doing these staffing things, and like he's talking like a management accountant. And I've seen 2 years of the learning. And I'm just sitting there looking and I get goosebumps as I say it. And I'm looking and they're talking and they're talking and they're looking. I said, guys, just be quiet for a minute. And I was really teary and I said, we just hit benchmark profit. And hospitality is one of the hardest industries, I think, to ever make a dollar. Like you have to get everything right to get that little bit of profit out at the end as a percentage of turnover. But it speaks to where they ended up. They came from a place of kindergarten. They ended up with management accounting skills 2 years in that they can take into any business that they deem. And there's one part of that story that I'll share that I've never shared, and it speaks to the power of strategic bookkeeping and also to maintenance. So eventually we'd done a lot of work. It was all going really well. And they happened across a specialty hospitality coaching system. And I'd heard really good things. And so they asked me, do you think we should work with them for a while? And I actually said yes. I said, they seem really good. And they went and worked with them and they didn't get the hand holding that I gave them and they went backwards again. And you can imagine how I really thought that was the right decision. I thought I've seen it before where I've let go of someone's hand, and I liken this to an athlete. And my advice to entrepreneurs is if you decided I want to be an Olympic swimmer and you would go out and get a coach, you wouldn't use that coach for a year and then go and just try and win the Olympics on your own. You'd have a coach for as long as you were in business. And a certified strategic bookkeeper is the numbers coach. We go beyond the numbers with Better in Business coaching as well. But it's a powerful story of success, but also where things can go wrong, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a client who is one of my raving fans. And when he talks to people about wanting them to use me, he talks about the ease of it. We get together once a fortnight and payables is done and payroll's done and this is done and it's all actioned and it's just, there's no stress. You need to work here. There's no stress, right? Because we're here to be a support. We're not here to make their life difficult. And so the way we work is a way to work with the client, but also to make sure that they're getting the supports they need to get to the steps that they want to take. And we just also recognize that we will support them as much as we can. And if they allow us to, and we get the privilege of helping them across their business, then we know that we'll be able to get the success for them.
Yeah. And I think the passion, like a lot of us women by nature, certified strategic bookkeepers, we're nurturers. And I think we hold a lot of passion for the success. It's not transactional for us. I think you'll relate to that. I take a client on. For me, I am so invested in their success and they see that and they feel it when I get upset with them sometimes. But they love the care.
Yeah, I see it with the clients, and I think it's also really powerful with the coaching, even with the other team. When you see their win, I am there cheering with them every step of the way. And when they hit a wall, you feel it with them because usually it's a wall that you've seen before and you know there's a way past it. So you just got to help them to see the way past it. So it's really, really powerful, but it's definitely something I genuinely feel is I really do love the wins and success for anybody in business.
Yeah.
So when you really see it, that's the payoff for me.
And I've learned just so much about what you said about the maintenance, the hand holding. And I think just to remind all entrepreneurs the importance of that. So my final question for you, lovely Jen, is what do you love most about helping entrepreneurs do better in business?
So we have touched on this a little bit as well, but what I love most is actually that mindset shift that you spoke of in the last story. So there's this really powerful mind shift that happens when a business owner finally understands their numbers and they realize they're capable of so much more than they thought. So when they start connecting the dots, suddenly their why becomes clearer, their goals, they feel achievable, they stop feeling like they're at the mercy of their own business. I think the other impact, which is just heart-centered, really felt, is the ripple effect that has. So when a mind shift happens, it doesn't just change the business, it changes how the business owner shows up for their clients, for their team, and more importantly, for their family. That's the part that I find really, really humbling and powerful to see. So you're helping someone understand that their numbers isn't just about profit. It's about giving them clarity, confidence, and a path to the life they're working so hard for.
Yeah, the path to the life, exactly. The flow on to, if it's a dad we're working with, the flow on to the wife and the kids and all of that. That's what I love, the impact. And I do think on the whole, it's families we're working with. And I love that too. That's why I say saving the world one small business at a time.
And then the business owner who's impacted shows up differently for their team, which impacts their team's family. So it's this huge ripple. There is so much to that ripple that we never see. We know it exists, but we never get to see it. But when you see that shift in the client, you know it's there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Miss Jen, thank you. I will also say that if you would like to fire your bookkeeper and hire a strategic bookkeeper, even if the bookkeeper is you, you can send us an email, hello@betterinbusiness.global. We do have a directory of certified strategic bookkeepers on betterinbusiness.global that you can check out. But I personally will connect you with a certified strategic bookkeeper. If you would like to work with Jen, you can email us, and we will also drop the details of Jen's strategic bookkeeping practice in the show notes as well. If you just want to have a chat with Jen, she will do a complimentary needs analysis results call with you. You can get some of Jen's time free of charge as well. That's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you so much to Jen for coming on the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. I would love to help you start doing better in business right now by giving you a free little ebook. It's a how-to guide. It's called The 7 Deadly Cash Flow Sins. And also I've developed a business health check for you. It's super high value. Both are available at betterinbusiness.global. If you would like to fire your bookkeeper and hire a strategic bookkeeper to start enjoying a return on investment and get the support you need to optimize your business cash and profit and time wealth, simply visit betterinbusiness.global, drop me a line, and I'll connect you with a certified strategic bookkeeper near you. I'll see you in the next episode.